Hey guys, I'm Bot25 here watching the launch of Hispasat 6, I think it is. This is Soyuz launch from Kourou in French Guiana. As you can tell by those beautiful views, or beautiful animations, I guess. That's 36 last one. Yet smaller GEO because it's a small payload to GEO.
Hello and welcome. We are live at the launch pad here at the Guiana Space Center for the first launch of 2017, and there is our Soyuz rocket on the pad going through the final preparations
the first launch
before liftoff, which is scheduled
French company's
in about 14
Russian rocket.
minutes time. Our passenger tonight is Hispasat 36W1. It's a very special satellite, not least because of the partnership which it's been built along with the European Space Agency using ESA's first ever small GEO satellite platform. And it's flying on board Soyuz tonight. Soyuz is effectively divided into two parts. The first three stages are the propulsion phase of the launcher, and then the upper stage, we call it the frigate upper stage. Its job is to take the satellite to its destination in space. And if we take a look inside the top of the vehicle, we call that the fairing. There we go, we can see our satellite inside. Hispasat 36W1 for the Spanish operator Hispasat in conjunction with the European Space Agency. So here in the Mission Control Center, we've got a number of different teams working. This is the Flight Directorate, or the Flight Desk. They are the people who make all the decisions in the event of unplanned situations. And of course, here on launching the Russian vehicle Soyuz, we have joint Russian and European teams. Let's find out what's been happening during the launch campaign.
The mission is quite challenging, as the satellite mass exceeds 3 tons and 200 kilograms, making it the heaviest spacecraft ever sent into GTO orbit by a Soyuz frigate launch vehicle. This mission is made possible thanks to the very fruitful collaboration of Arianespace with its Russian partners, in particular RKC Progress and NPO Lavochkin. The mission will comprise several steps, the first of which being the 3-stage Soyuz flight. The action of the boosters, the second stage, and finally the third stage will position the frigate to an altitude of 200 kilometers after 9 minutes. Then, following a single frigate boost, the spacecraft will be put into its separation orbit. About 32 minutes after liftoff, Hispasat 36W1 will be separated from the frigate and begin its new life. The entire mission will be visible from our ground tracking stations: Gallo in French Guiana, Natal in Brazil, Ascension in the middle of the Atlantic, Libreville in Gabon, Malindi in Kenya, and New Norcia in Australia.
Oh God,
so an exciting journey for Hispasat 36W1 and Europe's first ever small GEO satellite. A few other key people here in the Mission Control Center. This is the Mission Director. Today it's Didier Saïd, and sitting alongside him is our Range Operations Manager. Tonight it is Joël Egalji. You'll be hearing his voice throughout the flight because it's his job to call out the major milestones. And he's going to be calling one of those out in just a second.
Attention pour agir au moins 10 minutes et 20 secondes.
Top.
Début de la séquence finale, lanceur.
So the final sequence, basically.
And there we go. It's
the final count.
given the flight readiness signal for frigate. So we're going to go over now to the chairman and the CEO of Ariane
this one
Space.
Stefan's going to make his announcement.
Stefan Israel, who's going to tell us a little bit more now about today's mission. Stefan, thanks very much. Over to you.
Thank you, Cathy. So, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, Ariane Space is delighted to welcome you tonight for our first launch of the year, using for the first time our medium-weight vehicle Soyuz for a GTO mission from the Guyana Space Center. In a few minutes, we are going to launch the telecommunication satellite Hispasat 36W1 for our customer and partners. Our customer, the Spanish operator Hispasat, for which it will be the 7th satellite launched by Ariane Space. Our partners, OHB System AG, who built the satellite, ESA, a key partner for the development of the satellite's innovative small GEO platform. Thank you for your trust. As you can see on the control screen behind me, Soyuz is on the launch pad after having been transferred 3 days ago. All the operations linked to the final countdown went well. The weather is okay, so we should be in a position to launch at exactly 10:03 p.m. Following liftoff, Soyuz will head towards the east to separate the satellite on an elliptical orbit inclined at 544 degrees with respect to the equatorial plane. The perigee altitude will be 250 kilometers and the apogee altitude will be 35,862 kilometers. Hispasat 36W1 will separate 32 minutes after liftoff.
Right.
So our launch is now just a few minutes away. Go Soyuz, go Hispasat 36W1, and of course, enjoy the show. Thank you.
Right. No offense to Stefan Israel, but you can tell that English is not his first language.
The chairman and CEO of Ariane Space. Thank you very much indeed. So here we are at Mission Control. We're about 27 kilometers from the launch pad. The status panels are all green. You can see them there on the right-hand side of your screen. Those are reflecting the status of all the different systems across the base, up here in the Mission Control Center, often called Jupiter.
Don't know how traffic lights work.
Teams have been working very hard to bring us to today and get the satellite and launcher ready. Let's find out now what they've been doing.
Oh, damn,
Welcome in the MIC, a Russian acronym which means Integration and Test Building. Behind me, you see the Soyuz 3 stage, which will be used in order to launch the spacecraft Hispasat 36W1,
exactly
first GTO to be launched with Soyuz from French Guiana. In this building, at the very beginning of the campaign, we receive a frigate upper stage in order to perform all checks prior to its filling. The fillings of frigate occurs roughly 300 meters far from here, and then when frigate is filled, it is transferred to another clean room 12 kilometers away from here in order to be at the rendezvous with spacecraft staff.
At the end of last week, Friday, January 20th, the satellite was transferred to the second preparation room in the S3B-HN. Hispasat 36W1 thus joined the frigate arrived the day before from the FQ preparation building. This weekend, Saturday, January the 21st, the fairing ST has been installed on the wall, thus constituted. The logos of the European Space Agency and Hispasat were stuck on the fairing in the evening.
Here in this big, we receive step by step the 7 blocks to be used for the integration of the so-called 3 stage. After the mechanical integration, we perform a set of electrical, functional and pneumatic verification in order to verify the availability for launch of the 3 stage. This activity takes roughly 8 days, and then the Soyuz 3 stage is transferred into horizontal position from the MIC to the launch pad. This activity is done day -3.
Today, January the 24th, The upper composite has left the S3B in the early afternoon to be transported 11 kilometers away to join the Soyuz 3-stage, arrived in the morning on the launch pad.
Also,
After completion of the launch vehicle, day -2 and day -1, a set of tests on the launch vehicle itself and on ground segment are performed. And then, day 0, at about H0 -10, we start all operation of the countdown.
This first use of the small GEO platform required a very strong involvement of our teams, together with those of our customer, to successfully carry out operations prepared on paper in Europe for more than 2 years.
As are saying our Russian colleagues, ni pucha, ni pira, for their 16 mission.
Right, could you translate that, please? No? Okay.
Indeed. And during that film, the synchronized sequence for the Soyuz vehicle entered its final phase.
Well, we're 4 minutes or so
So
away
we
from
now
that.
have the 2 synchronized sequences, both for the frigate upper stage and for the Soyuz 3-stage vehicle, often known in French as the triétage, which means 3-stage, both having now entered the final stages of their synchronized sequences. The Soyuz one is called Kluch na Start, which means key on start in Russian.
Because they actually use a key.
That's because in the Russian control center, they actually turn a real key. Now, this is the launch control center here at the Guyana Space Center, and there are various teams working in here. We have joint Russian and European teams in the control center monitoring all the operations in these final phases of the synchronized sequences. We have a couple of teams, one responsible for ground operations and one responsible for the flight readiness of the vehicle. And we have a quality team who oversee procedures to make sure that they are all followed correctly, and there are safeguarding teams as well who ensure that the operations are carried out according to strict rules guaranteeing utmost safety at the base.
Right. Brilliant.
The big grey mast, you can just see the top of it there, clamping
fueling.
onto the top of the launch vehicle. That's called the KZM. It's the upper composite umbilical mast. There's a much better view of it there, the great big one going up to the top of the vehicle. Now, that is carrying what we call the umbilical lines, connecting the upper part of the launcher and the satellite to the ground, the teams on the ground, the feed lines. Those are being disconnected. Underneath that mast is another mast. It's called the VKM, and that is taking the umbilicals to the lower part of the vehicle. All the electrical links between the ground and the vehicle. Those two both retract shortly before liftoff. You'll see the big one go first, and then after that the one underneath it, the VKM. A word about the ignition sequence. On Soyuz, there's a system for checking the health of the engines before it leaves the pad. The engines on the 4 boosters and the core stage are switched on 16 minutes before liftoff, and the thrust is gradually increased to check that the engines are all working fine.
I'm sorry, I know now's not a good time to be a grammar Nazi, but...
Then the engines are throttled up to full thrust, and at that point the vehicle leaves
She means
the
16
pad,
seconds, just
and
to
the swing
clarify.
arms pivot away.
I know it's just a little mistake, but I'm sorry, I had to point it out.
We are 1 minute.
Yay!
1 minute to launch. We are live at the Guyana Space Center. And we're launching Hispasat 36W1 for the Spanish operator Hispasat, and the first of the European Space Agency's small GEO family of platforms, built by the German contractor OHB. Our very best wishes.
There you
to
go.
all the teams.
First mast retracts. And the second mast should go about now, I'd say. No, a bit later. The second mast goes around 20 seconds.
Attention pour le début de la séquence d'allumage lanceur. Top, à 0-20 secondes. Largage du mât
There you
VKM.
go.
Allumage triétage.
Boom.
Attention pour le décompte final.
Yes, ignition. There you go.
8, 7,
7,
6,
6,
5,
5,
4,
4,
3,
2,
1.
1.
Top. Et décollage
Lift off.
VSS.
Oh, I'm sorry. And the thing's off. Something about Soyuz launch pads. They're Soyuz pads are essentially just these huge holes in the ground, and the reason for that is that
Les paramètres à bord sont normaux.
that causes the least damage. So in America, they would need to they would need to do quite a bit of repair work on the pad, which would mean they couldn't really launch as often. Whereas with a Soyuz, you could literally launch, and minutes. Essentially, minutes later, you could
Hispasat
pour another.
36W1.
Du lanceur.
You could put another
The
vehicle on the
European
pad.
Space Agency's first
not quite
ever
that simple,
small
but-
geo platform has begun its journey.
You know, that was slightly
Soyuz
exaggeration,
is
but not by much.
hauling itself against the pull of our planet. The boosters are doing all the work at the moment. They're delivering 80% of the thrust right now.
Les paramètres propulsifs sont conformes à l'attendu.
He's telling
Right.
us that the propulsion is as expected. So the booster's job is to get us away from Earth. We need a lot of firepower to do that. Soyuz is heading out east over the Atlantic, and that's a first for the Soyuz vehicle here at the Guiana Space Center.
Yeah, it usually goes
First
either
time
way.
it's headed east, usually it goes west
Tous les
or
paramètres à bord
north.
sont normaux.
He's telling
I
us
don't
everything's
think
normal,
there's
everything's
been
going
any
according
case
to
of a
plan.
Soyuz vehicle going west. Once again, I am a stickler for details. Right, speed is
You can see our altitude there, 43
very
kilometers
right,
above
boosters
the
are
Earth, down
separated.
at the bottom left, and this is the
Boom.
scheduled moment for separation of the boosters. This is an image from a previous launch. Look at that.
Séparation des
Better
blocs
camera
BVGD.
They twist and turn as they fall the way.
It's called
It's
Corliss
all
Cross.
part of the plan. So we're now burning the main core stage, which is now called the second stage, or Block A.
Stabilisation correcte du lanceur après séparation.
Everything's going well.
Everything is awesome.
A word about the confirmations of major events in the flight. We're seeing the key moments happening at the right time, but we get the actual confirmations of those
A bit
milestones
later due to
slightly
the speed
later.
of light.
It's perfectly normal. That's because it takes a little time for the information to get from the launcher to the range operations manager here at the Guiana Space Center. And that's because it goes via Moscow, where it's validated before coming to the Launch Control Center
it is
here
EU.
at the
It's a Russian
CSG.
vehicle.
Le déroulement du vol est conforme à l'attendu.
Top right-hand side of the screen is the trajectory, the planned trajectory. The white dot is the actual position of the launcher.
It's more of a yellow cross.
Distance
than a white
in the bottom middle there is the distance from the pad if you were to draw a line along the Earth. So we are now jettisoning the fairing that was protecting the satellite during the launch.
Thanks, sir.
But we don't need it anymore, because if you look at our altitude on the bottom left, you can see that we're 120 kilometers high, and we have crossed the border, the Kármán line as it's known,
So it's in
effectively
space
the
now.
border with space. So there's not enough friction to cause us any problems, and we can see our satellite for the first time.
Les paramètres bord sont normaux.
Our speed there on the right hand side, 3 kilometers per second at the moment. We'll be getting faster later. Let's just remind everybody that's kilometers per second. So we can see our satellite, there it is on the right, the rectangular or square-looking sections. The blue sections are the solar panels, and the gold structure is the frigate upper stage. And now we have the scheduled separation of the second stage and ignition of the third stage.
The thing with Soyuz is the upper stage.
Actually, it's the other way around. Ignition of the third stage first, and separation of the second stage later. That's because Soyuz...
Séparation, bloc A et extinction.
There we go, have the confirmation there. Soyuz uses what's called a hot stage technique. That means that the third stage switches its engine on while the second stage is still burning. That's why the Soyuz has an open area in between the second and third stages, a kind of lattice work area. The launch campaign manager for OHB. Everybody focusing hard here. The computer-generated images that we are looking at, there they are, that's showing us what the experts have calculated is happening.
Le vol se déroule comme attendu.
This was 6 minutes and 7 seconds ago. The 16th Soyuz to lift off from the Guyana Space Center. It's the first time it's flown east, but it's also the first time that it's carried a satellite or carrying a satellite to geostationary orbit from the Guyana Space Center. Not the first time that Soyuz has taken a satellite to geotransfer orbit, but the first time from here. Galileo on the top left of these are the tracking stations you can see here. Galileo is the one at the Guyana Space Center. And Natal is the next one to pick up the signal. That's in northeastern Brazil.
Acquisition de la télévision par la station Natal au Brésil.
He's just confirmed that we've picked up the signal there in the Natal tracking station. That was a superb launch, wasn't it? Really beautiful.
I agree with Conrad.
What a sight. So that was 7.5 minutes ago. We are heading off.
Suivant les trois axes sont conformes à l'attendu.
He's telling us that all three axes are going according to plan. They're as planned. Heading off on our 32-minute journey. Here's more about the satellite.
Hispasat 36BB1, previously called Hispasat AG1, has been built by OHB System AG in Germany based on the new small GEO platform, which has been developed under ESA's Artist for Advanced Research in Telecommunication Systems program.
Hispasat 36-1 is a very innovative satellite mission that we have been working on with the European Space Agency and different European companies led by OHB, and with an advanced payload developed by the Spanish industry, led by Thales Alenia Space España and Airbus Defence and Space España. It is an excellent example of what public and private collaboration in the space sector should look like. We are sure that it will become a reference for the future PPPs in space in Europe.
We would like to thank Hispasat and ESA for the confidence put in Arianespace and its fleets of launch vehicles, and I look forward to seeing you soon for a future launch campaign.
Absolutely, and there's Beatriz there, who is indeed Spanish. And a big welcome to all the Spanish delegation and also to the German delegation here today at the Guyana Space Center. Coming up on separation of the third stage, which is our next event that is scheduled now.
Yep. You can see the vent that I put off.
Superb images. You can see the curvature of our planet there.
the thing.
Look at our speed on the bottom right, where
It's
confirmed the separation there. Speed 6.85.
Visibilité attendue de la station de Gallio.
And we picked up, or lost the signal rather, in Gallio. So frigate's getting ready to switch its engine on, frigate being the upper stage, the gold structure there. It's giving a quick burst of acceleration using small thrusters. And the idea of this is to push the fluids back into the tanks to make sure that the feed lines and propellant is going to ignite properly. It's a little bit like when you're driving in the car and you put your foot down on the accelerator and you get pushed back against the seat. So this is the scheduled moment that the frigate upper stage switches its engine on. And we're really starting the next phase now of the journey as frigate takes the wheel. So it's that gold structure, as I said. On the left you can see the satellite telling us everything's normal. And frigate actually has 6 spherical tanks, and they're organised in a circle. 4 of those contain propellant, and then 2 of them are for avionics. That's what you normally find in the cockpit of a plane. The flight control systems, navigation, communications, that sort of thing.
Confirmation du premier allumage du moteur frégate.
Yep, we've had confirmation there. The frigate upper stage has indeed turned its engine on. And the satellite is attached using a very special dispenser. Hispasat is a leading Spanish communications satellite operator, and they have 25 years of experience on the Iberian Peninsula and also in Latin America, where the group is now the 4th satellite operator.
4th or 4th largest? Basically,
Hispasat 36W1 is the 7th spacecraft that Arianespace has launched for their friends at Hispasat. The first ones were Hispasat 1A and 1B. Some of you may remember those. That was back in 1992 and 1993. And since then, Arianespace has launched Amazonas 2, 3 and 4A.
So lots of satellites.
And 36W1 is number 7. It's a cutting-edge satellite full of innovative technologies.
Hispasat continues to grow with the launch of a new satellite, Hispasat 36W1, which will be located at the 36-degree west orbital position above the Atlantic Ocean. Hispasat 36W1 provides the operator with additional space capacity in Ku band for Latin America and Europe, as well as capacity on the Ka band for the Iberian Peninsula and the Canary Islands. This satellite is involved in the Small Geo Platform's first mission, developed by the manufacturer OHB Systems AG, together with the European Space Agency and Hispasat, and it has a launch mass of 3,200 kilos and dimensions of nearly 5 meters long by 2 meters wide. This platform will increase the capacity of the European industry to play a key role in the field of medium-sized commercial satellites. The new satellite is the first to be manufactured by OHB Systems AG and is included in the range of small geostationary satellites. It has 20 transponders in Ku band and capacity in Ka band, as well as a regenerative digital processor, an innovative antenna that actively receives the Ku band in reconfigurable beams, 2 deployable antennas, and altitude control on the 3 axes, which ensure better orientation precision. The company, OHB Systems AG, is responsible for its integration, the completion of all technical tests, and putting it into orbit.
Esta novedosa plataforma aportará nuevas oportunidades a nuestros clientes en América y Europa en banda KU y KA. El satélite Hispasat 36W1 está diseñado para soportar tanto redes de datos como aplicaciones audiovisuales con la máxima calidad y flexibilidad. Su mayor potencia permitirá comunicaciones a mayor velocidad que los satélites de generaciones anteriores.
The Spanish industry has made an important contribution to the construction of the Hispasat 36W1, as well as to its ground segment. One of the main additions is the regenerative payload of the latest RedSat generation, which has an innovative design that will allow Hispasat to use satellite power in Ku band more easily and efficiently, and to optimize its service at all times. It is made up of a powerful receiving antenna that is active with configurable beams, RedSat DRA, manufactured by Airbus Defence and Space España, and a processor, RedSat OBP, manufactured by Thales Alenia Space España, which reconfigures and rebroadcasts the signal received and is compatible with the standard DVB-S2. Thanks to RedSat, Hispasat will be able to adapt this satellite to the changes that may occur in the mission following its launch, such as the incorporation of new clients in different areas or a change in the orbital position.
Estamos muy orgullosos de la misión Smart Geo. Es destacable en esa misión el papel jugado por Hispasat como líder de la misma, que ha servido como apoyo para que la industria española pueda participar activamente en ella. Fruto de esa participación, queremos destacar el éxito alcanzado con los dos elementos innovadores tecnológicamente incluidos en ellos, la antena activa ELSA y el procesador RedSat.
Hispasat 36W1 satellite represents an important milestone with the inauguration of a new orbital position at 36° west, and it significantly increases the capacities of the operator, which, following its launch, will be able to respond to the needs of its clients on both sides of the Atlantic more easily and efficiently. This satellite paves the way for a new generation of more flexible and adaptable satellites that are intended to improve communications.
Great, so how are things going?
Well, packed, full of advanced technologies, a very exciting satellite. Right now, it's in the visibility of the Ascension tracking station, hurtling across the Atlantic Ocean. Ascension's an island in the middle of the Atlantic. It's quite small, actually. It's about 88 kilometres squared, and apparently it has roughly about 1,000 people on the island. And according to Wikipedia, it's the remotest populated archipelago on Earth. The island is part of that archipelago, the Tristan da Cunha archipelago. It was a stopping point for airliners during the early days of international space travel, and I believe that NASA had a communications dish there during the space race in the 1990s. I think it might have been used to track the Apollos. So here we are, 18 minutes now into our flight. And gosh, technology is racing ahead here on Earth, isn't it? Everybody wants new devices, everyone wants faster internet, more bandwidth, and the demand for communications from space seems to be growing. One thing's for sure. There we go, he's announced the Ascension tracking station. The markets are constantly evolving, and right now we're seeing increasing preference for smaller telecommunications satellites on geostationary orbit, satellites that are flexible and modular. And that's why the European Space Agency... Okay, we picked up the signal there at the Libreville tracking station. That's on the west coast of Africa. So these changing markets, ESA wanted to help European industries to compete on the world stage and to have a solution to offer, which is why they decided to develop the platform under the ARTIS program, ESA's program for advanced research in telecommunications systems. Let's take a closer look at Small Geo, Europe's new platform.
Meet Small Geo,
the first of Europe's new family of satellite platforms launched into geostationary orbit. The European Space Agency developed small GEO to help Europe's industries compete on the world stage and get a foothold in the fast-growing market of small commercial satellites. For this first in the series, ESA partnered with the Spanish telecommunications operator Hispasat, a new approach for speeding up access to space for advanced technologies.
It indeed, because Hispasat and ESA were able to join forces, that we were able to develop a satellite with such a level of innovation. On the one hand, a new platform with a new satellite prime contractor. On the other hand, a payload embarking also a high level of innovation. And indeed, separately, neither Hispasat nor ESA would have been able to undertake such a complex development.
This partnership allows the German prime contractor for the spacecraft, newcomer OHB, to test the platform in space and position itself in the small group of European industries who make telecommunications satellites. In space, size counts. Small GEO is designed to carry payloads of around 300 kilograms, in this case Hispasat 36W1, with its innovative RedSat payload offering better signal quality and connectivity. It'll provide faster multimedia services for Europe, the Canary Islands and South America. Small GEO is modular, so it can be fitted out according to each customer's needs, helping them to keep up with continually changing TV, mobile and internet markets. The spacecraft is state-of-the-art and carries the very latest technologies on board.
Very much today a trend is to go towards full electric propulsion satellites. This is a class of satellites that only have electric propulsion on board, which is a high-efficient system that allows achieving important mass savings. So we are able to put in space a satellite with a similar capacity of a full chemical one, but with much lower mass, which means less launcher cost and compatibility with more launch vehicles.
With small GEO, European industries have a better chance of competing with manufacturers worldwide, whilst developing services that benefit everyone in Europe. So yes, a new way of working, although it's not actually the first time that the European Space Agency has done a public-private partnership. You may remember HILUS, I believe that was the first one. ESA has been very positive about the collaboration with Hispasat, and I'm sure that they'll all be doing it again. He's telling us we've got 5 minutes left of propulsion on the frigate upper stage. So Europe has a new prime contractor for geostationary satellites, OHB. Already 2 primes in Europe, Thales Alenia Space and Airbus, and now there's a third one, the Gang of 3. This is an important flight for OHB, the German company, because it allows them to test their craft in space and certify it. Germany is an important European space power. It has a growing influence in space activities, plays a very important role in the decision-making bodies of the European Space Agency and, of course, within the European space industry generally. And it's also a key partner for Arianespace. In terms of OHB, Arianespace has 11 more satellites planned of theirs to launch, and 3 of those using the new small GEO platform. If you look on the right-hand side of the trajectory, you can see that whereas before we were using all our power to get away from the Earth, you can see we were travelling vertically up into space. Now we're using our power to go faster and faster and climb higher and higher. You can see in the curve that we had a bit of a dip in the altitude, sort of a roller coaster shape. Well, now we're climbing up into space to get to the point where we can release our satellite. It's been a great relationship between Arianespace and its partners.
We have a very long-standing relationship with a strong sense of cooperation and partnership with Arianespace. This special relationship has allowed changing the launcher from Ariane 5 to Soyuz at a late stage of the program to ensure an early launch date in a very smooth process. For the launch, it is always with great pleasure that we come to work in Kourou with our colleagues from Arianespace. We have a very good friends here, and it is always great to work in such a friendly environment. The campaign has been really smooth, and we hope that the launch, LEO, and IoT will keep in the same way.
And we are using the frigate upper stage to deliver our satellite. A frigate was, interestingly, originally designed by the Russians as an interplanetary probe. You can see it there, the gold structure, the round gold structure with the spherical tanks. It was then adapted to fly on Soyuz, and I believe that the first time it was used on Soyuz was to release the cluster satellites into space. There are 4 satellites bouncing around our magnetosphere and checking it out. It can switch its engine on up to 20 times, and it can take its passengers virtually anywhere they need to go, to any kind of orbit. So that makes Soyuz ideal for launching all kinds of things, including constellations. Hispasat 36W1's transfer orbit is 1,300 kilometers above the Earth, and it will need to be traveling at a speed of 8.83 kilometers. Our next tracking station to pick up the signal is Malindi. Right now we are flying out across Africa. And Malindi is in Kenya, which is the east coast of Africa. Malindi will be tracking the launcher during the separation. And we're getting ready to switch off the engine shortly. Frigate reduces its thrust slowly. That's because engines prefer to run down remaining fuel at a reduced power. It's steadier. Travelling at 9.3 kilometers per second. This is the scheduled moment that the frigate upper stage switches its engine off. And we're now entering what we call the ballistic phase. This means the computer has sent the command to switch the engine off, and we are travelling without propulsion. It means that we're on orbit. We are travelling high enough and fast enough to cruise without the engine. Our altitude 718 kilometers above Earth and climbing. Our distance from the pad, we've travelled nearly 11,000 kilometers if we were to draw a line along the Earth. And our speed 9.5 kilometers. Let's take a look at what's going to happen to the satellite once it's separated.
Following the separation from the launcher, a series of 5 apogee maneuvers will be performed to raise the perigee of the orbit to geostationary height. Once the satellite has reached the geostationary orbit, a series of drift maneuvers will be executed to set the satellite in the IoT position. Finally, It will be set to its nominal Earth pointing mode, and the solar array and antenna reflectors will be deployed. Once the satellite is in the IoT position, an extensive set of tests will be performed at platform, at payload level, to demonstrate that the satellite has survived to the launch. After these tests, the satellite will be positioned in 36 degrees west. After all these operations, the satellite will be ready for its orbital lifetime of 15 years, providing quality and satisfactory services to our customers.
30 minutes and 16 seconds. We are 958 kilometers above Earth and climbing to our transfer orbit. The transfer orbit is our drop-off point, if you like, and of course the satellite will have a long journey of its own to do after that. The Malindi tracking station is tracking all these maneuvers right now, and of course they will be focusing hard, sending the information back here to the Guyana Space Center. And the teams who are keeping an eye on those maneuvers here at the Space Center are the real-time visual control teams. You can see them here. They receive the data that comes from the launch vehicle. They analyze that in real time to see how the flight is progressing, and then they send that information through to the range operations manager so that he can make his announcements. And they also analyze the information, the data after the flight, so that they can see how it went and make any improvements or adjustments. We're coming up on separation. Just a reminder that we get our confirmations a little later than the actual scheduled event. That's because the information goes via Moscow. We have an Arianespace member in the Moscow Mission Control Center, which is called TSUP. And then the information comes back here to the Guyana Space Center and the teams we just saw back there in the CVI. We're on altitude now. Our altitude is 1,000, just above 1,300 kilometers above Earth, so we're at the correct altitude and at the correct speed. We've travelled 12,000 kilometers from the pad across our planet. We are way above it.
Et confirmation de la séparation de la charge utile, Hispasat 36W1.
We have confirmation there of separation of Hispasat 36W1, Europe's first ever small GEO satellite, the first one in the small GEO family of small European geostationary satellite buses.
So
that's what it looks like.
That was launch of Hispasat 36W1. I'm button 25.
Small GEO is effectively pinged into space using a